Hello and welcome to another Game Nexus arcade video. Today we are going to take a look at the second part of Astro in Spikeout Digital Battle Online. This of course being the second stage of the game, which I've said in my previous videos. There are 3 stages in this game. First of course being Diesel Town, second being Astro Mall, and then third being the Opera. And if you didn't see my previous parts, or if this is your first part, yeah, it wasn't until the second stage that I realized that you press the punch, the beat, as they call it, and the charge button in order to pick up the weapons. But the weird part is you have to kind of be like by the handle or your character won't pick it up. It's not like some games where you can basically be by the weapon and your character will just pick it up even if they're like facing the blade. But just to give you a bit of information here, on the Sega Model 3 arcade hardware, well, the Step 2.1, other games that were on this hardware are Daytona USA 2 and Daytona USA 2 Power Edition. There was Dirt Devils, Emergency Call Ambulance, LA Machine Guns, Magical Truck Adventure, of course Spikeout and Spikeout Final Edition, Star Wars Trilogy, the Ocean Hunter, and Virtual Striker 299. Those were all the ones that were on the 2.1 hardware. Now the only difference between the Model 3 Step 2.0 and 2.1 is the architecture packaging for the custom ICs was moved from the Gullwing type to the BGAs. That's the only difference. And from what I understand, the games on 2.1 and 2.0 are interchangeable. But on the 2.0, there was Fighting Vipers 2, Harley Davidson and LA Riders, Sega Rally 2, Ski Champ, there was Virtual Striker 2, along with the Virtual Striker 2 98 versions, 99 versions, 99.1, and then of course there was the sequel to Virtualon, which was Virtualon Oratorio Tangram, which that's how I think you say it. And once again, this is another one of those parts of the level where the I was running out of time. But as I said in my previous video, I really don't know, like, how they give you time, why you get time sometimes, but you don't get time other times. But you know how it is, it's kind of confusing in some of these games. My running theory with basically doing the gameplay you saw in this whole series of videos is it has something to do with the combos. Like, if you do some really crazy combos, it seems like they give you time, which is why you saw me at the end there. I was kind of going nuts trying to do combos, thinking maybe that would do it. And now, just in case you missed my previous videos, the characters with the green life are just regular enemies, whereas the one with the yellow life, that's the boss. He's the only one in this part of the game that needs to be actually beaten. And I believe he's that guy with the bandana on his head who's kind of like bigger than everyone else, and he looks like he's kind of stalking me there. Yeah, he's the guy that I'm just beating on right now. That's the actual boss. And once you defeat the boss, the rest of the guys will usually just retreat. So, it makes it a little bit easier that they don't stick around, and it's not like one of those things like you have to fight through them when you're trying to break the gate. And I believe this section of this stage is one of the only parts in the game where I legitimately don't break the gate in time, but the reason why that happens is because this stage is kind of like a conveyor belt, and it's like going around like a merry-go-round, and I'm actually trying to run against it when after I defeat the boss here. You'll see in just a minute here. And I wasn't physically able to get to the gate. Since obviously you can see there would be no question as to where the gate is, because it's a fairly small level. It's not like I could be confused or anything. Here we are. Now, instead of realizing that the gate was right behind me there, I sort of completely whiffed and missed it right there. I didn't even notice that when I played until watching this back right now. I'm just desperately trying to run back to the gate, but you're pretty much standing still on this thing, so the only way to really do it is to go the other way. You really can't break the gate on this carousel type thing by going against. And you see there, my desperation, I'm jumping to see if I can break the gate, but I couldn't. So that's something to remember. If you're playing this game and you don't break the gate in 30 seconds, it's not that you won't get like a bonus score or something, you're just gonna lose a life. So, regardless of how much health you have, you could have all your health, you will basically die if you don't break the gate in 30 seconds. Because until that actually happened right there, I figured that not breaking the gate would just make me not get like a score bonus or something, which, since you could see like anytime that you actually die and you have to continue, you lose your whole score. In this gameplay, at no point was like score an important thing to me. And that's one thing that's been kind of crazy in a lot of this game, is these like generic sports guys. Well, actually, now that I remember, more so in the later part of the stage than they were in the earlier. In the earlier part of the stage, you have more of like your business-looking guys, and then there were some like, I don't know how to describe them, but like they were more like vacation-looking guys with like Hawaiian shirts on and whatnot. But as we get later into the stage, you're going to get more toward like the sporting goods area of Astro Mall, or as the one sign in the first part of this video called it, Sega Mall. Oh, and I think I'd mentioned that earlier in the other part of the videos. There's the tennis racket. And what's crazy is you hit somebody with the tennis racket and they go flying. And I don't know if you've ever held a tennis racket in your life, but unless you're seriously swinging it with force, and it's got to be like a ginormous tennis racket, it's not going to punt most grown men like across the room. It would probably have to be like a tennis racket, maybe 5 times the size of a normal one to actually do that. But it's just funny that it does that. And I always love like games where you have a weapon that's like a bat, and it'll make like a home run bat noise. And as you can see, that guy in the big orange pants, he's the boss in this situation. And that was one of those many situations where everyone just pretty much ganged up on me, and I really didn't have a chance. Oh, and there's what I was telling you about, that whole home run noise when somebody hits you with a bat. Even though, like, maybe they hit you in the torso, it still makes that sound like somebody got a home run. Which, you know, I'd say if you might hit a body hard enough, it might make a loud noise, but it's not going to make, like, that hollow sound it makes. And at least fittingly, the guys with the baseball bats are baseball players, because it'd be kind of silly if a guy with a baseball bat didn't look like he should be holding one. I think earlier in the gameplay, there were some guys in Dieseltown that had bats. Whereas it's kind of, I guess it's kind of like, oh, well, that's their weapon of choice. But in this situation, like the tennis guy had a tennis racket, the baseball guy has a bat. Now that I think of it, I don't recall any golf guys having golf clubs. But I've played beat 'em ups, or for some reason, some people call, from some countries, people call what I'm playing right now a fighting game, and then they call a one-on-one fighting game a beat 'em up. But I've always called this type of like free roaming, beat everybody up type game a beat 'em up. And I've always called the one-on-one fighters fighting games, but you know, your mileage may vary. You might call game genres by different names, but here in America, that's just what I've called them. This is a beat 'em up, and something like Fighting Vipers or Virtual Fighter, that's a fighting game. I'm just mentioning that because I've heard people call the reverse. Oh, and now the boss is deciding to do his crazy special attack. And that's one thing I always get irked about, like, you're like low on life, and all of a sudden the boss goes into like hyper overdrive mode and totally destroys you without even like breaking a sweat. And at least compared to Linda here, this guy just looks ginormous. It kind of reminds me of how Jeffrey was in some of the later Virtua Fighter games. Because like, in the early Virtua Fighter games, like 1 and 2 I would say, he was just like as big or as small as any of the other male characters, whereas Virtua Fighter 3 and on, Jeffrey, just like that boss, was just ginormous. And of course, onto more sporting goods area with more of these sports guys, since this game is trying to say the only type of guys that are going to be in a sports store are sports guys. And that guy doing the kicks there, he looks like he might be a basketball guy. Although that would have been cool if he just threw a basketball at you, but I guess they didn't want to have to, like, deal with, like, the bounce physics and everything. Like, if the ball would hit something, would it bounce? Because that's one thing you'll notice in a lot of games. If it's something they don't have to deal with, like inventing a system for making balls bounce, they're not going to include like a basketball or a tennis ball. And now for some reason that's making me think of Pretty Soldier Sailor Moon arcade game. And there was those random dudes that they didn't hit you with the tennis racket, they like hit a ball on the tennis racket and hit you with that ball. And that was one of the ones I can remember. Yeah, I'm like a tennis guy, and I'm gonna like totally tennis you. And apparently the soccer balls, or oh, okay, they're like kind of in like those cardboard caddies. The soccer balls, or as some people call them, footballs, they're just kind of in like cardboard boxes. For a second, I thought it was just like a flat box, and it was like, this is what's in that box. But when you look at it a little bit closer, you can see it's how like you would get one of those balls in the store, where more or less the cardboard is surrounding it, and you would just see like part of the ball sticking out on the front. So I guess you could like inspect it to see if it's the type of ball you would like, which sounds kind of creepy when you say it out loud. And I think that may have been one of the situations where I couldn't find where the last guy to beat up was, so I had to check the map. And what happened right there was kind of like the situation on the carousel where I was trying to get up the down escalator, and I kind of noticed that it wasn't going to really go my way, so I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna jump over the railing, which luckily I was able to do, and just run up the escalator, because it was a lot easier. Oh, here comes another really crazy baseball guy, but this guy's like a white bat instead of a red bat. Maybe they play for different teams. Or maybe that's their, like, away uniforms. I guess they have to have away bats, too. As you can see from my channel, I'm not much of a sports fan, so I know a little bit about sports, but they're not like my major forte. And once again, you'll notice that guy just refilled my time, but I'm not 100% sure why. If for some reason you know why in Spikeout Digital Battle Online, why you get time sometimes and why you don't, let me know, please. And then in any next playthrough of this game, I will, know. So I won't have to be like, well, I'm not getting time right now for some reason. And then other times you get, way too much time, and it, you end up having full time all the time. I was gonna say, I just noticed that the bats from the, bad guys were still there, and that was me trying to grab one of the tennis rackets off the shelf, but apparently they're just a decoration. And this is one of those times I had to go around and find where the boss was, because it was one of those here comes the boss situations, but guess what the boss didn't do? The boss didn't actually come here. I remember when I got to this part, I was thinking to myself, Oh, don't tell me this is gonna be like Gauntlet Legends, where I just get lost for like 30 minutes and then have to speed up or cut out the video. Because of any game I ever played, that still had to be the worst, like, getting lost I ever had. And I just desperately couldn't find where I was to continue. But luckily that only lasted like less than a minute there, so I was able to find the boss, because for some reason everybody had to have this whole thing of coming up the escalator. I guess that's like kind of a thing for this level. But just like Stage 2 here, Stage 3 will be another 2-part video, because I believe that stage took me at least 40 minutes, and I really didn't want to upload a 40-minute video, so I just broke it into 2 halves like I did with this. It just, in my personal opinion, for any like long play or let's play, I just find that like smaller chunks, 30 minutes or under, are just a bit more like, I don't know how to say it, palatable. But yeah, as you can see, like, being stuck in the bottom of the escalator here, I'm getting really beat bad because there's, like, hardly any room to go. And especially when the boss has moves where he twirls all around, it makes it very hard to get out of the way. That's the thing that's a little bit annoying, is it's a little bit hard to get up the railing there because your character barely jumps high enough. And I'm just glad in this situation, unlike that previous level, I was able to actually get to the gate with a little bit of time to spare. So I believe this might be the last section of this stage now. And you'll see the Sonic the Hedgehog Easter egg I was talking about in the last part. And those little Sonic the Hedgehogs are not the only one. If you look down, there's actually a big Sonic the Hedgehog on the floor, which you'll be seeing him a bit more when I get down there. But it's kind of cool that this is a Sega game and they put like Easter eggs like that in it. I just think it's like one of those things that's like, oh yeah, this is a Sega game. And you just kind of remember that by seeing those little touches here and there. And I definitely have to say, through this whole gameplay and through when I actually played this, the music really did add an extra dimension, and that guy just jumped off the edge, and like any game like this, he'll probably just fall to the floor and I'll just have to beat him when I get down there. But what I was going to say is, the music definitely adds quite a bit. There's that big Sonic the Hedgehog if you saw him really fast. There's another picture of him over there. I think I was trying to get a look at him. That was me trying to see if that, like, spinny thing was actually anything. And now I just noticed that. I don't think I noticed that when I was playing this, but there are actually cars outside that are driving on the road, which is actually a pretty cool effect. Basically, the whole gist of this is to descend down the stairs, so you can then get to the enemies. And there's a better view of Sonic there. Yeah, there's that guy that fell all the way from the top floor. Apparently, he wasn't even phased. Unlike some games where you literally fall a couple inches and you die. But basically what you saw me doing there is I wanted to see if like anything would happen if I hit the Sonic the Hedgehog statue. But as you can see there, absolutely nothing happened. I was just swinging wild at him and it never actually hit him because he's just a piece of scenery like this pillar behind me would be. This game was kind of made in 1998, like an age before like really destructible environments were a thing. So something like being able to beat up Sonic, especially in a Sega game, wouldn't really be a big deal. Or something Sega would want you to do, really. It would kind of be if there was a Nintendo game where you could just destroy Mario. And I believe it's this guy who is the boss, the character I had mentioned in the first part, who is, he has weapons that you can't knock out of his hands. If you knock him over, he still holds them. I think it's both him and the guy in the gray suit. Both have, as I like to call them, eternal weapons, like those tribal guys in Dynamite Cop, who had those, like, permanent machine guns, and even if you knocked them over, they wouldn't lose them, and then when they got up, they would hold both arms out and just start firing at you, which was a very hard thing to avoid, so you just kind of had to make sure you weren't in their path. You can see more Sonic the Hedgehog on the wall, which is really nice. And I can't say enough about it, but I just love the music in this game. It just adds that, like, kind of extra dimension. Whereas when as I had mentioned in one of the previous parts of this video, when I first plugged this in and I didn't have any music playing, it just kind of felt flat and boring. And it just wasn't as fun as, like, basically what you get here, which is the full experience. And in just a little while here, I'm going to vanquish the boss. So, that has been Stage 2 of Spikeout Digital Battle Online, of course being played on my original Sega Model 3 Step 2.1 arcade board. And once we beat him up here, I just have to get a little bit more life. Let's see here. Almost. And he does that twisty, crazy, spinny thing too, which makes him a little bit harder. But yeah, this has been another Game Nexus arcade video, and another look at Spikeout Digital Battle Online. And I shall see you later. Bye. And his swords finally fell out.